video we're going to cover the Turkish Get Up. Now, the Turkish Get Up is a very big, demanding, long-range movement. It's broken down to many stages, so this video is actually one of the longer videos in our kettlebell series. And all I'm going to do first is just demonstrate the movement, and then I'm going to break it down into phases which hopefully you'll remember and you can apply when you're doing this yourself, okay? So, I'll just demonstrate, firstly, the Turkish Get Up. Okay, so, ton of stuff going on there. When I break this down, it's going to be broken down into cues. I'm going to use certain cues for certain elements of this movement. Firstly, the setup. Now, when I lay down on the floor, notice if I'm going to do a heavier load, I need to make sure that I'm not going to turn my shoulder just pulling the kettlebell to my shoulder, right? So, I lay side on and I grip that kettlebell. I then pull the kettlebell onto my front. Now notice the kettlebell's in my right hand, so my right leg is up, my right knee is up, sorry. I do not want the opposite knee to where my kettlebell is, okay? So my right knee is up, my foot is firmly planted on the floor. From here, the first thing I do is punch that kettlebell straight up overhead and hold it so it stays over my shoulder, stacks over my shoulder the whole time. Next, I pull myself up onto my left elbow. So the kettlebell is in my right hand, so I'm now going to come onto my left elbow. Now, I'm on the elbow, notice the kettlebell is still directly over my shoulder, my foot is still planted. From here, I drive onto my left hand. That's very important because if it's a heavy kettlebell, you're going to need to go in 2 stages. I then pop the hip to the ceiling, I keep my body in a nice straight line, and I sweep the knee under my hip close to my hand. Notice how the kettlebell goes straight over me now. I then kneel and stand to full extension. Now when I go back down, it's the same process. So, my knee goes back, it's that lunge, my hand goes down, I sweep the foot, I drop the hip, drop to the elbow, and then onto my shoulder. And that is the movement, the whole movement broke down. I'm going to show you that again from the front, just so you can see what I'm talking about from a different angle. So, again, I'll go with my right hand just to keep it consistent. The kettlebell starts on the floor, and I grip the kettlebell and pull my right knee up. From here, I punch the kettlebell in the air. I come onto my left elbow, my left hand. Notice I keep the kettlebell overhead. I pop my hip. I sweep my knee underneath so it meets under my hip and close to my hand. I come up into that kneeling position and then I stand. When I come back down again, my left knee, so the kettlebell is in my right hand, so my left knee goes back. My hand comes down, I sweep the foot, drop to the elbow, shoulder, and then bring the kettlebell down. So the cues I used there were elbow, hand, pop the hip, sweep the knee, stand. Then from stand, it's exactly the same cues for coming back down. So knee, hand, sweep the foot, drop the hip, come onto the elbow and lay down flat. So let me go through those cues again. I'm going to repeat this process one more time on the opposite side so you can see the difference in the sides firstly, but secondly so you can keep getting those cues in your head. Okay? So, going to my left side now. Remember, we roll that kettlebell into position. My left kettlebell is in my left hand, so my left knee comes up. I then go from here, the first point, is elbow. Oh, my bad. I keep the kettlebell overhead. Then my first point is elbow. Then it's hands. Hip, sweep, kneel, stand. On the way back down, same cues again. This time in the opposite direction. Knee, hand, sweep, sit down, elbow, shoulder. And then swap sides. Right hand, right knee. And again, elbow, hand, pop the hip, sweep the knee, kneel, stand. Coming back down again, knee, hand, sweep, sit, elbow, lay, and then bring the kettlebell down. If you struggle with this movement, especially if you've got one arm stronger than the other, one side stronger than the other, sorry, or you struggle just to sit up, then just use a light kettlebell until you find a weight which is achievable. Now, when people do this, the common mistakes I see are, one, they go straight onto their hand, okay? But if I've got 32 kilos over my head, guess what, I'm not going to be able to do that. So it's very important that I do use the elbow. That's my first port of contact, and it keeps me grounded all the time. And it's a lot easier to go from the elbow to the hand than it is to go from a completely flat position to a completely upright position with no stop in the middle, okay? The second thing is people go from this position here and they'll literally go there with their feet. But now, guess what? You've got to rock into a squat and stand. That's very difficult to do. So always remember that the second you come to this position here and you pop the hip, pull your knee underneath. So now we've got 1, 2, 3 points of contact underneath this kettlebell to create a nice stable base. Then guess what? I'll pull 1 point of contact up. I've now got 2 points, and it's just a case of standing that weight up. So please watch out for those mistakes. They're very common mistakes I see made. And just remember the cues that we covered in the first part of this session. But ultimately, definitely utilise this movement in your training program. It is a very effective movement, very technical, but awesome for a whole body workout. And that is the Turkish Get Up.